we'll start with the results first because they're amazing. Now, I have been a part of a few amazing transformations, but honestly, you're like one of the fastest I've ever worked with and ever even seen. I mean, this is not like one of those Instagram transformations where it's 1 month and it shows and it's like a different person because they've photoshopped it and it's all fake. This is legit. You literally cut your body fat in half and went from like no pack to six pack. I mean, it's unbelievable. Just a few stats here. You lost 25 pounds, over 25 pounds actually. Your body fat went from 19.7 down to 9.3, so under 10. That's a 10 and a half change, 10% change. Your fat mass, you lost 19 pounds of fat off your body, which is unbelievable. You lost three and a quarter or 3 3/4 inches off your waist, and you lost 4 inches off your hips, which is like unbelievable. So why don't you take me to before, when you decided you wanted to make a transformation and you decided that you wanted to seek out personal training. So where were you at mentally? What was that like?
I think for a long time I had been going to the gym and sort of spinning my wheels and trying to figure out what I needed to do to look the way that I wanted to look. And I think that I had been sort of second guessing myself about going forward in that process, whether or not I wanted to build or to cut or, what I should be doing. And I needed guidance about putting a program together because I think I was just sort of taking it day by day or week by week, but not sort of like month by month and thinking of like the long-term goal and sort of like really sticking to something that was more fleshed out. And I was just kind of going from one thing to another. So I got really frustrated because I I kept trying to cut and then bulk and then cut and then bulk, and then what was happening was I was just getting fatter. Like I gained a lot of muscle mass because I was trying to lift as heavy as possible,
Yeah.
but I had just kind of gotten fat.
Hmm.
And what was nice about that is that I already had some muscle mass on me and I had some strength and I had a little bit of experience, but I just wasn't looking aesthetically the way I wanted to look.
Of course.
So so then I randomly saw one of your, like, it was like an ad on Facebook for
Yep.
you,
Yeah, I ran some
and
Facebook ads.
someone who like knows about aesthetics and knows about how, I mean like I don't know if there's a better trainer than you, as like to think about changing your body composition. And you obviously look the part, right? So like clearly what to do. So I reached out to you at that point, and then we had that, like, there was like a sample sort of training session that I did as a group thing, and
Yep.
I knew sort of right away that, I mean, you threw stuff at me that I had never heard of, just like the training, like the ways of training. So I knew that I needed to change, and you had that change ready for me, so I was
Awesome.
sold.
Yeah, definitely you came in, you weren't green to the gym, right? You had been
Yeah.
working out for quite a few years. It seemed like you had some experience. I mean, your lifts were all good. And I mean, you had a lot of solid muscle, which was perfect because you had the foundation elements, right? You had the muscle mass, all those things. We just needed to strip away the fat and reveal what you already had there, which was
Right.
which was awesome.
Right.
So you were frustrated, you were spinning your wheels, you just didn't have that plan in place. So met me, we started working together. Those first few weeks are really critical for people, especially when they're trying to transform like you did, because they need to get motivated and kind of continue to make progress at first. So like, what was the first few weeks like? The first maybe 2 to 4 weeks when we started working together. You were excited. You start working with me, and then what was like the first 2 to 4 weeks like?
I mean, I think I knew that I was sort of in the right place right away because I already felt this like immense support when I started from a variety of different. I'm like seeing you. Obviously, the training in person was fantastic, and I was learning all these different hacks that I didn't know about. But more than that, you setting me up on the Trainerize app,
Yep.
knowing exactly what I was supposed to be eating, know exactly like what supplements I was supposed to be taking. Um, like when I should be working out, how I should be sort of like timing my nutrition, and it was just all laid out. My workouts were laid out. I knew what I was doing for the week. I knew how to plan ahead. I mean, it was just sort of like, and then the way that I came in, you have this like exhaustive questionnaire that you have to answer, and it just kind of goes through your day, your behaviors and habits, and how you live your life, and how your training and your diet is going to have to sort of mold around that, and
Sure.
what's going to work for you. And that was huge too, because I felt like I wasn't working on some like bodybuilding.com sort of like program. It was something that was specifically designed for me and like my strengths and my weaknesses. And, so I sort of like in those first 2 days, I remember being like super like at ease and feeling like I had made the right decision because I had all these like resources at my fingertips, much more than I'd ever, like everything was laid out. So I just had to like follow the plan.
That's great.
And then I think sort of working with a trainer who sort of like embodies like what I want to look like and has the attitude in the gym, that I wanted, that made me feel like I wanted to come in for like our weekly weigh-in and sort of like kill it, And so it's kind of like living up to that bar over and over and over again. That
Sure.
was like a huge motivation for me. So
Yeah. So a lot of people, even with all the resources, because I mean, let's be honest, I wish my compliance rate was 100% and everybody made transformations like you, but they don't. So even though, other people have resources, sometimes they don't follow through or they hit obstacles and then they start to fall. What was it with you? Like why was it different for you? You had all the resources and you just killed it. Like I mean, your execution was flawless. Why was the execution so great?
I think it was a mindset of just putting myself in kind of like I don't know, a vulnerable position of like just trying to like leave everything on the floor when I was training with you,
Hmm.
and then trying to recreate that intensity when I was in the gym. Um, just kind of taking like getting in the zone to put everything I had into this process, because it had been something that I've longed for like 10 years and I'd never gotten there, and I felt like I finally had the right trainer and the right process, and I just wanted to put, 110% into it so that I didn't have any regrets about not really doing it, you
Sure.
know?
So what was
So
that mindset like for you? I mean, what was your we talk about this a lot, right? We talked about it when we first got started. What was your reason for doing this? What was your why that sort of dragged you through the mud and got you to execute through all these through the first few weeks?
I think for sure I've just been putting this off for a really long time, of just sort of wanting to live up to, like, to be at my best body composition, to sort of look my best. Um, and I just never, I think I'd always been really scared of kind of like following through with something. Um, and I think just kind of really throwing myself into it. It's like I got this momentum at the beginning where it was just like I threw it forward and I just like kept falling forward into the process.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I just sort of put myself in this vulnerable position. I don't know like how else to say it. I know like the why was so important. I remember you asking me in my initial interview like, what superhero do you want to look like?
Yeah.
And I looked at you and I was like, oh well, I guess I'd like to look like Chris Evans from Captain America,
Yeah.
maybe. I know that's kind, and then I sort of quickly dismissed it to be like, oh, I mean that's a little crazy, I know, but like maybe eventually or something. And you were like, I just remember you being like, why not? And I feel like your the way that you can inspire someone is sort of like it all relates to that, where you're just kind of constantly you were constantly challenging me to like, why not, or why would you put yourself down, or why, like constantly challenging these boundaries of not only what you can do physically but how you see yourself. Um, so that was huge. It kind of broke down these barriers of kind of limiting beliefs about myself,
Yeah.
because I thought, I was just going to be kind of like that slightly chubby guy or that skinny fat guy, or like, the guy who just didn't get it. Um, and the thing is, like, once you can just like really rev yourself up, um, then the wheels start spinning in the right way, So
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, dude, you did look like Captain America when it was over. I mean, I think I remember on Instagram somebody commenting on one of your photos and saying like, "Hey, we need physique models or something," right? I mean, some guy was
yeah,
like trying to like hit you up for physique modeling. I mean, you looked like you should have been on the cover of Men's Health promoting your own superhero movie by the end of it. I mean, it was, I mean, unbelievable, awesome.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. So, as far as like, okay, so that covers the why. Now, the food part, right, is very tricky for a lot of people. So, we talked a little bit about the working out and how, we're able to kill that. And we're working out together, of course, once a week. But the food aspect, you're kind of on your own for most of that. So, how did you manage that? I, of course, gave you what numbers I thought you should be eating. I created the sort of customized macros for you, gave you the supplements and stuff, but you still had to execute on that. So how did you manage that?
I think a big part of it was planning ahead,
Of
and
course.
being sort of realistic and sort of just like setting myself up for a few days or even a week of just making sure that I had what I needed in the house. Um, but I think sort of like the biggest portion for me was when I read this article on your blog about, I think it's like the lazy man's guide to eating.
Yep.
Um, and I think I had been really unrealistic with myself of what I would actually do. Because, I mean, you told me when we started, you were like, the best diet that you could possibly do is the one you're going to follow. Um, and I think that I had been trying to be like that guy who like makes this giant Tupperware of chicken and brown rice and like eat this unseasoned food or whatever and try to sustain that. And I would get a day and a half into it and just be like, oh, screw this, I'm gonna have like pizza. Like I can't maintain this, right?
Of course.
Um, and basically in that article, to me, you kind of outlined these really really simple strategies of how to have food in the house that you can literally prepare in like 2 minutes and that tastes good. So for me, like, and it's probably different for everybody, but like having like rice packages that you can microwave
Oh, I
was
know.
huge. Um,
I
so
love those
basically,
things.
right? Like what I did was um, I tried to like make things in bulk because it's cheaper or whatever, but I would always have like an emergency supply of the rice packages, maybe like a frozen meat that I could microwave,
Yep.
um, like ground meat that I could make in a stir fry really quickly, just so that when I got hungry or when it was really time for dinner, I knew that I wouldn't have to run to a restaurant or a grocery store. I knew that my like emergency supply was always there. Like I always
Yep.
had like an approved, like fat and protein and carbohydrate waiting for me to make, a snack that would fit my macros and my calories in like a minute and a half.
Sure.
Because it's a definitely like when you're cutting, it's a mental game, like you do have to. There are some times when it's like I really, want to eat right now. I really like how am I going to sort of power through this, and having sort of like that safety mechanism to fall back on of like having the stuff in your kitchen to make really easily so that you don't have to spend 30 minutes like hoping that you can get to like, that eating point.
Sure.
So that was huge for me, particularly because when we first started working together too, I was traveling a lot. Like the first like 2 months I was gone a lot, and was living in and out of a hotel room, and I had to microwave stuff, get stuff at a grocery store, and like it was easy and it didn't taste bad.
Yeah. And that's what's even more amazing is that you managed to do that while doing some traveling, which usually never works together, right? Improving your body composition and traveling never go together usually.
Yeah, I remember you saying like to me, because I that was one of my first complaints about how this process was going to work. I was like, well, I'm going to be gone a lot. And you were like,
Right.
well, I used to travel a lot for work too, and this is how I dealt with it. And it was as simple as going down to the front desk and being like, hey, do you have forks and plates? And hey, is there a grocery store right around the corner? And just kind of picking up the same things because I mean most hotel rooms now have refrigerators
Oh
and
yeah.
microwaves, and they have silverware, they have plates or whatever, and you can eat in the lobby or whatever. And I mean you can still eat out, but you can supplement that way, and it's doable, you know.
Of course, yeah. And you were doing intermittent fasting as well, right?
Yeah,
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 and especially if you're traveling, that is super helpful, right? Because it
for sure.
makes some of the things that you eat a little bit less important. You can get away with a little bit more
Right.
when you're doing the fasting.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how did you manage that? Was that your first time doing intermittent fasting?
It was my it was I kind of had like just like I was spinning my wheels with everything. I had sort of
Hmm.
experimented with it, but I
Yep.
think I kind of doing it all wrong. It was kind of like it does give you a little bit more leeway into maybe fudging a little bit. But I remember when I was first introduced to it, I thought, oh, I can just eat whatever I want, like in these like 4 to 8 hours. And I mean, if you're cutting, like that's not really going to get you want to
Of
go, you know.
course.
Um, so particularly because like I can eat. I mean, if it's like I don't have a problem, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh God, I'm so full, or I forgot to eat today. No, my day is planned around eating. Um, so yeah, I went overboard initially when I tried it, but I figured it out. So
Yeah, and how did you deal with the intermittent fasting? So a lot of people think, well, lifestyle wise, I won't be able to manage this, or this is crazy going so long without eating. I don't think I'll be able to do it. How did you manage that?
I think there are a couple strategies for me. The first is that like I wasn't perfect all the time, right? So that I wasn't always I would go for like this 90% of like, really I would try for 100% to like always be on that intermittent fasting thing.
Of
But,
course.
when you're hopping on a plane, you're hopping off a plane and you don't know when you're going to eat and, like that kind of stuff, you have to make decisions or whatever. Um, One thing that helped a lot was being able to sort of in like when I didn't have that window that, snacking on something that was better, such as like I would have like I would get like cherry tomatoes and stuff at like a grocery store and just like kind of pop those and like or peppers or whatever. Like again, I would try to stay in the 8 hour window, and I was usually pretty good at it, like 95% of the time.
Yep.
But like when I couldn't, I was like, okay, well, what's the next best alternative that's just going to get me to my next meal?
Sure.
The other big thing, which was a suggestion from you, was this was huge, was like having a big, protein shaker and having BCAAs and ice. For some reason, like that mixture of like a giant thing of ice water and BCAAs, like it gives you sort of like that sweet quench you need, and if you need to chew on some ice or whatever, and you're filling up on a ton of water. Um, it sort of just delays your need to eat at that point.
Oh
So I feel
yeah.
like that was like a huge thing for me.
Very cool. And as far as the workouts were concerned, we were doing metabolic resistance training at first, and then we kind of we threw some density training in there and stuff, quite a bit of circuit stuff. How did you manage the workouts on your own when we weren't together?
Um, Again, like I mean, I really did prioritize this process for myself. Like I just remember kind of scheduling my day first with the workouts and then kind of filling it in and past that. So if I knew that the workout was going to sort of include a bunch of different things that I needed, like if I was going to need a pull-up bar plus dumbbells, plus a barbell or something, I
Hmm.
knew that I don't want to go to the gym at like, 5:30 p.m. It's like my chances are better at going in the morning so that I
Sure.
actually have a that's available to me. Um, so and then really just I think just taking 10 minutes or something before the day before you go in for the workout and sort of trying to memorize it, and kind of knowing what's next and looking at the cues and making sure that you're sort of staying true to what the form objective of that exercise is was huge, because
Hmm.
basically I was trying to get into the gym and recreate the intensity that I felt with you, right? So it was
Yep.
almost like it was like when I was going into the gym, I was imagining there was sort of like imaginary Jackson like right behind me, and what he would sort of say, cues he would give to me, um, and it was so I would kind of constantly recreate that, or like when I was doing MRT in the gym, it was like if I were going to be training with you and I knew that I had that hour, I'm not going to like use the bathroom in the middle of that. I'm going to use the bathroom before I start, and then try to get through the whole workout just like you were there.
Sure.
It's like almost like I was paying for my time at the gym. So to get the most value out of what I was doing.
Wow, that's awesome. I think you mentioned a couple of really important things there. Like, first is taking something that's important to you, and whether this is working out or, a side business you're trying to do or whatever, and scheduling that ahead of time, right? It's a concept called like putting the big rocks in first. So looking at whether it is your next day tomorrow or even your week, and then saying, okay, these are the things I want to prioritize. Let me schedule those, and then fitting in other things around them as you can, right?
Right.
And then also reviewing that workout before you go into the gym. A lot of times I think people go in and then it's like, oh, what am I going to do now? Or let me look at
Right.
this workout I got right before I'm about to work out and try to figure it out, which is
Right.
like so difficult. So that small amount of like visualization that you're doing the night before, I think reaps huge dividends when you're in the gym that next day. And then acting with urgency as you're moving from one thing to the next, not dawdling and dilly
Right.
around. Like,
Sure.
you're really prioritizing your time and saying like, this is important to me, and I'm going to kick ass when I'm in here, and I'm
Right.
not in here to socialize or to BS.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, amazing, so cool. All
Yep.
right, so covered the workouts, covered some nutrition stuff, supplements. What were you taking for supplements?
I at one point kind of looked to you to be like, I want to make this as intense as possible. So it's like layer on top of layer on top of layer. So it was like the training and the timing and the fasted, intermittent fasting, and then the fasted workouts and the supplements. So it's like, what can I do to like give me an extra edge? And I felt like Legion Forge, which has that Yoan it's like that fat burning supplement.
Yeah, Himbeim.
Oh yeah, thank you. I felt like that was like awesome because it sort of gave me this huge focus in the gym, and I felt like when I was taking it, I just kind of like shed fat pretty rapidly. I
It does
definitely
work
like
well, but honestly, I mean, I got to be honest, you were kicking ass in the gym when
yeah,
I was with you. So supplements do one thing, they supplement, and they do
right,
help accelerate things. But there's
yeah,
also a little bit of a placebo effect there, right? Like you take that, and
right,
then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, like
yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Like a lot of these pre-workouts and stuff, part of them, why they work so well is the placebo effect of like you're taking something you feel like now I'm gonna kill it because I took
yeah,
this.
yeah,
You were you would have gotten the results regardless. It certainly helped. Maybe helped you get there a little faster, but man,
yeah,
you were gonna get there anyway.
right.
Yeah, you were killing it.
I think knowing more about what I should be taking during a workout, what I should be taking after workout, like when you just sort of like the idea of having dextrose in your protein shake afterwards, and not why you wouldn't want like a banana after your workout. That was a big change for me, and I think like that gave me a little bit of an edge.
Sure.
Um, I think the fasted workouts give me an edge, and then like this wasn't a workout thing, but I think starting to take fish oil and the supplement called Green Vibrance, and just sort of making that my part of my daily habit. I think I've just felt generally better.
Oh yeah, those things are fantastic for inflammation and I mean joint health, skin, like obviously digestion, a million things.
Right. Oh, and then BCAAs, of course, like during actual workout, particularly if you're doing a fasted workout, like
So
was
helpful.
helpful. Um, yeah. So just kind of like having all of those things in place gave me just that extra 3% edge or whatever
Of course.
to what I was already doing. Actually, I think the fish oil and the green vibrance were like huge things for me just because I felt this sort of general well-being, a
Yeah.
little bit more. So
So you make this fantastic transformation. I mean, 10 weeks out, just unbelievable. What was it like? Were people noticing? Were people saying things to you? What was sort of, what was happening in the other aspects of your life?
yeah, for sure. People did notice. I
I'm
had
sure they did.
I had a couple of friends who were like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? You have to tell me exactly what you did and tell me about your program." I had a couple of friends who have been killing themselves in the gym and are like in really good shape, but
Yeah.
can't like sort of break that like that 12% barrier, where they're 12, 13, 14,
Yep.
and they're like, I can't really see my abs. I can almost see them. How did you get to this point? And so they were just like asking me tips about that, and I found that really interesting because like these are people that have been more serious about the gym than me for a long time.
Tables
Like
have
people who can
turned.
deadlift 405 and like these crazy guys. Like, so that was kind of cool. Just getting more attention, feeling a little bit more confident at a pool party, like, just feeling good.
How did all that feel? All of a sudden these guys are coming to you who you probably looked up to at some point, right? And now they're asking you for advice.
It was crazy. It was crazy how the tables turned, and how they were sort of like, I don't know, envious of what I achieved, because it was like what I had to offer was more of an aesthetic balanced look, and it's almost like, some of these guys I looked a little bit better than them, even if they were like, they're stronger than me or bigger than me, like, so yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. I'm sure the confidence helps as well. Pool party, shirt
Yeah.
off, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, right? At the end of the day,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
going and doing something like that just makes everybody feel good.
Yeah. 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 For sure.
All right. So, is there anything else you'd like to add maybe? So there's somebody out there watching this video right now and they're thinking, man, I want to do this thing that Michael did. This is unbelievable. What would you say to somebody who's at, the starting point, the starting line of a journey, like this?
I would say, like, first of all, if they're looking for a trainer, they should look to you,
Well,
because
thank you.
yeah, you're like the trainer's trainer. You're like everything that a trainer would want to be. You're super organized. You're really caring. You're there every step of the way. You lay out the entire process, and you talk very clearly about what the goals are and how you're going to get them there. So, if said person has a goal and they're looking for a trainer, then they should look to you. The other thing I think is like taking that little bit of fear and a little bit of whatever's been holding you back, and really looking at the why of what you're doing, to get motivated to stick with the process. Like, if you're really serious about it and you really want it, then for sure you can get them there. I think one thing that was really helpful for me, for you, was you not only gave me like the meat of my workout, but my mobility stuff, and that was huge, because not only like my squat and everything got better from working on mobility daily, but just having like a really good warm up that was catered towards like the way my body wasn't working the way that it should, was huge in the way that I could hit the gym, and the way that I felt, because I didn't just look better, I felt better.
Sure. Yeah. So, I struggle with the same problems, right? We get in the gym, we do a lot of chest work, we do a lot of ab work, we end up getting
Right.
like all this internal rotation, like super
Yep.
tight here. I mean, I should probably do it more too myself, but just opening ourselves up, loosening up the
Right.
chest muscles a little bit and the hip flexors and all these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I can't thank you enough.
You.
And your transformation, man, I got to just say again, just unbelievable. Thank you for letting me be a part of it, to be honest.
Thank you.
All right.